Imagine a live show where laughter turns to horror in an instant when a trainer comes face to face with a killer whale's fury. What happens next is a story that will leave you speechless and questioning everything about marine parks. She was a highly skilled animal handler and emerging talent in the realm of aquatic displays, boasting more than 10 years of practice, and a profound connection with the creatures under her care was realizing her ambition. Yet during a fateful afternoon witnessed by a live crowd, calamity struck. The pool waters became turbulent, the handler disappeared, and the subsequent events would permanently alter the marine attractions sector. This account details the shocking final moments of Orca handler, along with concealed past rarely discussed greetings from the Animal Quest channel. Should you find compelling interest in authentic animal interactions and the narratives hidden from public view, ensure you hit like, share, and subscribe. Let's commence. Long before she plunged into a tank with a 6-ton killer whale, was merely a young girl with an aspiration. Raised in a modest Midwestern community, she harbored a fascination for the ocean despite never having witnessed it firsthand. While other youngsters engaged in typical play diligently committed marine mammal data to memory, she knew every variety of dolphin by heart and every orca name at Sealand. Before turning 12 for her 13th birthday, her guardians took her to Sealand, an expansive marine complex situated on the Florida coast. That day she observed her inaugural orca encounter up close, and something within her resonated deeply. She desired more than just a visit. She wished to belong. In her 20s, she joined the facility as an entry-level assistant. She spent her initial days cleaning containers and learning behavioral patterns long before she ever held a signal whistle. Nevertheless, her ardor was undeniable. Within a few short years, she ascended the ranks to senior trainer. Her specialization lay in behavioral enrichment, forging intimate connections with dolphins, belugas, and eventually orcas. Wasn't merely a trainer. She was kin to these magnificent animals. She comprehended their signals, their dispositions, their suffering. She firmly believed the bond between human and whale could be founded on mutual confidence. But trusting a predator of such immense scale can be unpredictable. Before he became known as Titan, he was a young calf, barely 2 years old, navigating the frigid dim depths off Iceland's coast. He remained close to his family pod, absorbing their distinctive clicks and melodies, until one day these sounds silenced by containment nets. Titan was seized, violently separated from his mother, and transported into captivity in 1983. He would never again experience the wild. From the very beginning, Titan struggled. The enclosures were too confined, the incessant noise disorienting, and the other orcas felt alien, not family. At his initial establishment, signs of aggression were already being documented, not towards the human handlers initially, but directed at other orcas. He was frequently isolated, often subjected to disciplinary measures. In 1991, during a standard session, a female trainer lost her footing and tumbled into Titan's enclosure. Witnesses claim he submerged her. By the time assistance arrived, it was too late. The fatality was officially ruled an accidental occurrence. The formal report stated it could not be conclusively determined if the whale intended harm. Titan was subsequently transferred again. At Sealand, Titan was introduced as the park's premier attraction. Larger than any whale they had previously housed, he was powerful, magnificent. Yet behind the public facade, trainers harbored unease. He disregarded commands. He refused sustenance. Handlers reported instances of aggressive behavior, and a sense of apprehension began to permeate behind the scenes, but held faith in redemption. She was convinced that with patience and diligent care, even Titan could be trusted. What nobody realized then was that Titan had already experienced the taste of peril, but no one believed tragedy would strike twice. It was a typical February afternoon. The seating was completely occupied. Families, sightseers, children all gathered to witness the park's iconic orca exhibition. The atmosphere was charged with excitement. No one could have foreseen the unfolding horror. Was scheduled to execute the concluding segment. She had performed it countless times. The routine was seamless practice, second nature. Titan emerged from the water precisely on cue. The audience erupted in cheers, gave the signal. He leapt, he spun, he created a colossal splash, a flawless commencement. They were perfectly synchronized until they weren't. Everything was progressing according to plan. Then she approached too closely. Titan's enormous jaws clamped around her ponytail in a single forceful motion. He yanked her into the water. For an instant, the spectators failed to grasp what was happening. Was this part of the performance? But wasn't resurfacing, and Titan wasn't releasing his grip. What transpired next was a horrifying exhibition of brute force. Titan thrashed violently, dragging repeatedly through the water. Again and again, trainers on the platform activated emergency alarms. They deployed nets, issued signals, used food hand gestures, anything they could think of, but it was futile. He refused to release her regardless of their efforts. He would not let her go. The assault persisted for over 30 minutes, and by the time her body was recovered, it was far too late. The presentation abruptly ceased. Music silenced. Sirens echoed through the arena. Staff frantically yelled into radios, "Code Black! Code Black!" Emergency intervention was underway, but for every precious second was vanishing. Trainers frantically moved, shouting commands they had drilled for years. Hand signals, auditory cues, food incentives, nothing proved effective. Titan refused to respond. Witnesses characterized the scene as surreal. One moment she broke the surface, gasping, reaching out. The next she was pulled down by thousands of pounds of sheer force. Some onlookers shielded their children's eyes. Others continued to record, too stunned to avert their gaze. Screams morphed into a shocked silence. "He's not letting her go. Oh my God, is that real?" Was submerged repeatedly. At one point, Titan surged from the water, her inanimate form visible trailing alongside him, lifeless. And still it required more than 30 minutes for the team to isolate Titan. Only then could they retrieve his body. The injuries were catastrophic. Reports documented blunt force trauma, severe lacerations, and complete loss of life at the scene. By the time the spectators departed the stadium, there were no more shrieks, no applause, just an eerie quiet. They had just witnessed a living nightmare materialize. The park was immediately closed within the hour. Gates were locked, shows canceled. Local authorities initiated a formal inquiry, while federal agencies intervened to assess the cause of the disaster. Just 38 years old, was pronounced dead at the scene. Her subsequent autopsy would corroborate what many had feared. She had succumbed to a combination of drowning and extensive blunt force trauma. The severity of her injuries was consistent with being dragged, struck, and submerged repeatedly. The narrative exploded across news networks globally, headlines repeated endlessly. Trainer killed by killer whale. Orca turns violent during live show. Talk shows, cable news, and online platforms debated every minute detail. But this was not the first instance Titan had been implicated in a fatality, and soon the public began to pose questions. The park was unprepared to address. Animal rights organizations reignited their long-standing campaigns against orca confinement. Protests erupted outside Sealand's entrances. Hashtags demanding justice for and freedom for Titan became global trends. Sealand released a carefully phrased statement describing the event as a tragic accident and extending condolences to his family. But behind the scenes, damage control was in full swing. Staff were instructed not to communicate with the media. Internal documents were leaked revealing the park had documented behavioral issues with Titan for years and continued to utilize him in shows despite numerous warning signs. The discourse had shifted. It was no longer solely about a tragic occurrence. It was about an industry founded on spectacle and the cost of entertainment. When dealing with wild, intelligent predators, for many this was not just a tragedy. It was a watershed moment. In the ensuing weeks, Titan was permanently removed from all public performances. No more shows, no more crowds. He was confined to a backstage holding tank, out of sight, out of the spotlight, but never out of public discussion. Family, previously quiet in their sorrow, stepped forward with composure and resolve. They demanded answers not just for themselves, but for every trainer who had ever entered the water without full knowledge of the inherent dangers they directly challenged. Sealand pushing for transparency and accountability, and they were not alone. Across the nation, safety inspections were initiated at marine parks. New regulations were implemented prohibiting trainers from entering tanks with orcas during live performances. OSHA, the federal body responsible for workplace safety, imposed penalties and mandates that would forever alter the operations of these parks. But the impact extended beyond policy. It ignited a cultural awakening in the years that followed. Surge of documentaries and investigative reports began to emerge, the most renowned being Blackfish, which heavily drew from Titan's history and the sequence of events leading to death. The public began to question not only how these animals were treated, but why they were held captive at all. Petitions flooded and protests grew louder. Attendance at marine parks diminished. The illusion of harmless amusement had been shattered, and it was narrative that shattered it. Her name transcended him. The headline, it became a symbol, a cautionary tale, a stark reminder that even the most seasoned, the most committed, the most adored could still fall victim to nature's unpredictable might. Became the emblematic figure of a global reckoning. Was this avoidable? Could the catastrophe of demise have been prevented? Or was Titan a wild creature snatched from the sea, destined to lash out? Was he too a victim, bound by the very captivity that deprived him of his natural instincts? When we examine the story of Titan, we are compelled to ask ourselves, when wild animals are put on display for our amusement, who truly holds control? Is it the trainers who devote their lives to comprehending these beings? Or is it the animals whose true essence can never be fully domesticated? These are the lingering questions. The tragedy of one woman, one whale, and the lives permanently altered. It's a narrative that shocked the world and compelled us to confront a reality we can no longer overlook. What are your thoughts? Could this have been averted? Do you believe animals like Titan should be kept in confinement for our entertainment? Share your opinions in the comments below. And if you wish to hear more real-life animal tales that shook the world, subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned for further stories that unveil the truth behind the headlines. What are your thoughts on this tragic incident? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more revealing animal stories.